Shit Happens Prince Albert. I'm Kara Selmashik, your host, and this is Prince Albert's premier literary community right here on Shaw. And I'm introducing to you now Trent Gillespie.
Hello.
Hi, Trent.
Hello.
Nice to meet you, person I've never met before.
Never.
So let's talk about your books, because I know you have. He's got a few. So let's start with your series, your Galactic Odyssey series, because I know that kind of takes you right back to when you first started writing. So tell us about those.
The Galactic Odyssey series, I started writing that series back in, I think the first time I ever dabbled in it was I was in grade 8 or 9 for a creative writing class in school. And I just started to explore the world. It was always in my head. It came from a dream I had when I was a kid. And then in grade 11 or 12, we had another creative writing assignment to write a first chapter of a book. And the teacher had rules on the board about things that need to happen in a book. And I'm a bit of a rule breaker. So I decided to write an entire chapter that broke all of her rules. And that became the first chapter of the book, fine-tuned after many years of working on it. But this first one, The Escape from Tychonia, it took me 17 years to write, off and on. And once that came out of my head, the other books flowed out quite quickly. And now it's that whole storyline's kind of calm in my head. I still have more stories in it, but I got the first few out, and it's a very passionate job for me to get this tale out.
All right, cool. So for the audience at home, just give us a little bit of an idea what the genre is, a little bit of the storyline. We're not going to give anything away, no spoilers, but what are these books about? It's
a science fiction action adventure. Someone once described it to me as Star Wars crashes into Star Trek and gets a little gritty. It's about a space captain trapped in a brand new universe. He joins a failing rebellion where there's like only 100 people against alien overlords. And when that starts to sound like a typical science fiction story, I throw in a bit of fantasy where the main character gets a mystic ring, and he's told to fight the ultimate evil of the galaxy, but he's like, I'm busy doing something else. And so the whole series is him given this quest to stop the ultimate evil, but also trying to restore balance to just a chaotic universe. And he just goes through his journey of finding out what this mystic ring is, finding out what his place is in the storyline of the galaxy, and he goes on many adventures with it to learn who he is and what's going on.
Cool. So is the world building hard for this kind of thing? I mean, you're talking about coming up with planets and species and cultures, I imagine.
It can be, yeah. Considering that I started thinking about it when I was 6 or 7, I've had many years now, over 30 years to really cultivate, and I do a lot of brainstorming. I write down ideas. Some don't get used, some do get used, and some get melded together to make a brand new universe. And it takes a while. I definitely don't have the talent to create a new language like you hear in some famous shows like Klingon or Dothraki from Game of Thrones or something. But it definitely takes a lot of work to know where it's all going to go.
Cool. So not just for the adults, we've also got children's books here. So
exactly.
Let's talk about your first children's book, because this is going to get fun. So, so take us on the journey of your children's series. Let's start with this one.
Sure. Well, The Pictures Are Gone is the very first one. And how that one came to be was I was actually at a Comic-Con with my daughter, and she asked me, can you write books for kids? And I thought, well, I guess I could. I'm a storyteller. And I tried a few different stories, and they never worked. And then we came across the book with No Pictures by B.J. Novak. And I loved how simplistic it was. And I said, I can do simple. And so I started to write it, and I said, well, no, I need pictures. So I started to draw pictures, and they were terrible. And then it was actually my daughter who said, well, why don't you make that part of your story, is that you can't draw? And then I just started building on top of that, and the series became a collection of books where the pictures are drawn by me, and they're horrible, and I admit them. But the characters in the story also talk to me and say, why are you drawing us like this? Like, this is a terrible drawing. But it gets silly because then they try to interact with the reader, which is what I think is very important with kids' books, is that you interact with the child as you're reading it to them, and they can interact with you. So in the book they say, what should we do now with the picture pirate? And the kids will say, let's do this. And so you try to guide the kid in reading and get them to guess what happens next.
Now this one is different, and this is what it's supposed to look like. This is the
one-
cover of the book.
This one I had already, once the first book had come out and my kids loved it and a lot of other kids loved it, that gave me the energy to write the second one. And because my kids are silly, I want to write a very silly book. And so I wrote it. The book is literally broken. Like it's backwards and inside out and the numbers are wrong. And it took me a while to publish it because they wouldn't publish it because the book numbers are out of order, and I had to work with the publishing company for a while, and I finally got it to work. But I enjoyed it because it's probably the most creative of them all, because I had to go through and come up with, changing characters around, changing pictures, putting the end of the story at the beginning, and so on and so forth. And so once the book was broken and the pictures were gone, once again, I got to a Comic-Con, and a kid was coloring in his book that he bought it. And so I wrote a coloring book called Color This Book, or Color If You're American, and they're spelt differently. The fun part is the artist who gave me the font to use for this is American, and she loved it. Her only thing, she gave it to me for free as long as I sent her a copy of the book.
Nice.
And so I came out with a little story just to go along with it, because I figure it's hard to do it. Most coloring books don't have a story.
Random,
So there's random pictures of, hey, here's this character, and here's a dog, and here's a cat. This one, the characters have a storyline they go through, but there's lots of sections for people to color in. And following the plot line, they talk to the audience, they talk to the kids, ask them to color them a certain way.
Nice.
And when I finished the book, and maybe it was even the second book, I made a comment, again, being silly. I said, hey, my next book should be called Rise of the French Fry Army. And I published it like that, and all of a sudden, I am stuck to write Rise of the French Fry Army. So this one took a little bit to figure out. This one followed a bit more of a linear storyline. This is one where the author backs himself into a corner where he's like, oh, I said I'm going to do this. I have to do it. And so this is the culmination of the storyline, where we try to finally fix all the pictures. We fix the storyline. The French Fry Army shows up and there's chaos. I finally go back and color and draw a character I said I wasn't going to do in the first book. And I actually got a guest artist to show up at the very end. Someone I know does some great artwork. And so she did a very good job. And so the ending of the book reveals what happens.
Very nice.
And so it's a good continuation of the story. Maybe I might do a prequel that shows how the book eventually lost its pictures. But right now I'm just happy with the way it's gone for
A
those.
prequel, very
For
cute.
those four.
So in this final book has a lot of story to it. This is very, very cool. I love this book. I've read this one, and it's so good. So tell us about the week the Tooth Fairy got sick.
The week the Tooth Fairy got sick, it came from a conversation I overheard with my daughter and her friend on the way to Ringette. They were talking about the fact that the Tooth Fairy missed one night. And then they started talking about, well, what will the Tooth Fairy bring in replacement? And they had silly ideas. And finally, my daughter's friend said, well, what if she brought a pickle? And they laughed themselves silly. And I thought, why would they bring a pickle? Well, maybe a vegetable fairy brought the pickle. And then all of a sudden, the ideas just started to form. So I came up with this tale about how the Tooth Fairy got sick and is helped by all her friends. And it was a great story, but once again, because of my other books, I'm not an artist.
It's a terrible drawer.
I am a terrible drawer.
How did we do this, Trent?
So what I did was I actually used to teach at a local high school, and I was good friends with the lady in the art department. And I said, do you have any young, talented young artists who would like a chance to get into the book publishing business? And a few days later, she emailed me a name, and I met with this young lady. Her name is Lacey Lawrenson, and she was 17 at the time, and she showed me her artwork. She showed me her 3D models she was baking in class for the modeling portion of her art, and it was phenomenal. And so over the course of about 5 or 6 months, she came up with like all the images inside, and she asked me a few specifics that I like. The only real thing I wanted about the fairies, I wanted her to have dragonfly wings. That was my only thing. I said everything else to do. So she drew all this and finally got it published, and she's actually been doing a lot of other artwork as well. So I've introduced her to many other artists in the comic world and brought her to Comic-Cons, and she got to meet artists down there and see what the grind is about and see what the struggle. And yeah, and the best part was that this Tooth Fairy book and The Pictures Are Gone are both published in French, because my daughter goes to a French school, and I figured we have a French community here in Prince Albert. Let's get some French translation going.
Very nice. So, children's book wise here, how much of your life are we talking about with accumulation? How long did this take?
I think The Pictures Are Gone started in the fall of 2013, and Rise of the French Farmer was published 2016. Most kids' books for me take about half a year in regards to idea, formulating, testing it out in the family. You know, as someone much more famous than I am once said, if I can't get my family to laugh at it, then it's not good. And so it takes about 6 months to maybe, like this one took about a year and a bit, because I had to get a professional artist to do this one. When you're doing your own artwork and you don't care how it looks, you're not good, no time at all.
So here's a question for you. What's harder, the kids' books or the, not even just the genre that you write? Is it entertaining adults? Is it entertaining kids?
Entertaining kids. Kids are a lot more pickier. You got to tell the most story in the least amount of time. And like in regular adult novels, you can explain a situation, a scenario, and a location. You don't have much time. Like these are about 40 to 50 pages. And they got to have as much stuff in there as possible, especially with the Tooth Fairy book. And thankfully with the pictures do help tell the story as well. So these ones are harder for me to write, but I do enjoy them because it gives me a chance to go back to my childhood and have my kids enjoy that.
Cool. So on a personal note, who inspired you to write?
Who inspired me to write? I had a lot of authors got me to write. My high school teacher really wanted me to write, but I think it was one of my friends in high school. One of the teachers in high school. His name was Gerald. He was actually he wasn't even a teacher. He was the chef at the school, and he got me into theater. And when he heard me telling stories, he said, "You're a storyteller," and he says, "Whether you write or whatnot, you should do that." And so. In an ironic twist, I've inspired a character in these science fiction books after him, a major character. And so when I finally got to see him a few years ago, he was quite honored. But yeah, he got me interested to write, and that's why I keep writing. Now my kids keep me writing.
Very cool. All right, well, thank you very much for coming. Trent's books I know are available through Amazon.
Through Amazon, yeah.
It's pretty easy to find those. So again, thank you for coming. And if you'd like to watch this episode again, it is available to view online at shawtv.ca. And if you would maybe like to appear on this program, just look for me on social media, Kara Selmaschuk. Last name is exactly how it sounds. Thank you again for tuning in to Lit Happens Prince Albert.